Okay, hello everybody who might be watching the recording. It's October 11th, 2024. We are going to be doing a tech lecture that's going to start like very, very basic and then going up to hopefully like KVT rounds, I think hopefully nuanced stuff. But we'll start with very basic stuff first. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Wow. I need to find a place. Yes. Oh. Oops. Wait, got to go find. Yes. Share screen. There we go. Okay. Okay. So we'll just start very basic. I also would like if anyone has any questions, just always just either unmute or just raise your hand. But yeah. Okay. So let's just start with the ways in which we win a debate round. So when let's say we're given a motion. Oh, someone to the waiting room. Let's say we're given the motion, the USF. So this is the topic. Um, the US federal government should uh give loans to Pakistan. Okay. So there are a couple ways in which you win any generic round. The first being, so this is like ways, or like we'll call these layers of debate. So the first layer we'll call it case. And case is the regular kind of advantages slash disadvantages. Like the US giving loans to Pakistan is going to boost its economy. Giving loans to Pakistan is going to make it financially dependent. So it's bad or it's good, it's bad. These are usually called like advantages or disadvantages or like the contentions um advantages. So like basic stuff. The second layer we'll call this theory. And theory, all I think we have to just establish for now is like the rule book of debate. So we'll call this like, let's say this like we're playing a game, we're playing like Monopoly or something, or we're playing, I don't know, we're playing something. We have the actual game, right? We're having the game where we give money to people where whatever the goal of the game is to whatever, like win the most money. Or I don't even know the goal of Monopoly. But anyways, you can't play Monopoly without a rule book, right? You need to know how much money to give to people. You need to know you need to know that, oh, you roll a dice on your turn and then you give the dice to the next people. So theory is like a rule book effectively. And then I'll explain this term later, but we're going to call it establishing the rules of the game before you play the game. And so I'll just make a little amendment, say norms, because as we'll later learn, there's not a lot of rules in debate rather than speech time. Third, we have critiques. And this kind of way to approach the debate is to prove one side has a flawed mindset that makes debate or that like makes debate uneducational or something. For example, in this topic, the US should give loans to Pakistan. Side negative can argue that by the US giving loans to Pakistan, the US is spreading their capitalism and allowing and making Pakistan economically dependent on the US, which means that by affirming the resolution and by voting for side government, you endorse capitalism. And if you endorse capitalism, this is a bad thing, and you should not endorse capitalism. So just basically prove that one side has a flawed mindset, and that makes debate uneducational. These are kind of the three layers of debate. And I'll start with the case debate here. So case debate is, well, obviously the debate that we all know. It's like whatever reasons for and reasons against. Because this is somewhat of a tech lecture, I'll go on how like on the so there's a West Coast and there's an East Coast way, West Coast versus East Coast way of structuring case. The East Coast way, which it's not totally like rigid, but usually the East Coast way is uh, claim, warrant, impact, or whatever, like claim, warrants, and impacts. So whatever, like a claim for your argument is that the U.S. giving money to Pakistan will boost its economy. The warrants here are that um, um, whenever the US gave money to the Philippines or something, and the Philippines saw 300,000 job increase, something like that. Like reasons to explain, usually evidence or something, the impacts, whatever, higher quality of life. This is usually how it's structured on the East Coast. On the West Coast, we have something completely different. It's called uniqueness, links, and impacts. And so this is the way you structure something called advantages. So uniqueness, very simply put, is what's happening in the status quo. What's happening right now. So in this case, in the US federal government, which should give loans to Pakistan, there's like, okay, I'll ask, I'll make this more engaging. Does anyone have any ideas of what's happening in the status quo? Like what is prompting this motion to happen in the first place? Anyone, someone. No takers. Okay. Right now, Pakistan's economy is going bad. It's corrupting. Pakistan's economy is crumbling. It's not doing well. It's doing bad. Otherwise, if Pakistan's economy was doing good, why would we even give a loan in the first place, right? So first, you have to establish that there's something bad happening in the status quo that by voting for side government, you're going to solve for that. That's called uniqueness. So Pakistan's economy is crumbling, right? And then secondly, what else is happening? Like, let's say, okay, this is research. Bad things happening to Pakistan. Yeah, low growth rates, high levels of debt, inflation, low productivity, et cetera, et cetera. So you do all this research, you get all these stats, and then you put it in the uniqueness. That's happening bad in status quo. The links are how, and I think, okay, before I get into that, I'll establish what a plan is because I'll use this term quite often. A plan is what the side government or side affirmative plans to do. So in this case, the plan is composed of something called a plan text. The plan text is the plan itself, the actor, the agent of enforcement, the time frame, and the funding. So these are the five things that go in a plan, like a plan text. So the plan usually will be the US will give a $500 billion loan to Pakistan over 5 years. So something a little specific. The actor is the person doing the action. So it's the US. The agent of enforcement will be like, let's say also the US. The time frame will be right now. And the funding is going to be 500 billion. Yeah. Effectively, this is called a plan text. Can anyone think of why this is kind of needed in debate round? What happens if we don't know how much we're giving a loan to Pakistan? Why might that make the round kind of unfair?
They could say like you could give like $1 or like $100 trillion, you know. There's no like specification on funding.
Right. Wait, who just joined? Oh, sorry. Hello. Oh. Hello, who is this?
This is Aditya. I'm on my
Oh,
mic.
okay. Awesome. Okay, yeah, I think you have most of this already. Wait, I just like to ask, like Laura and Sophia, does this all sort of make sense to you? Any questions so far? Yes, Sophia?
Yes, sort of.
Okay, wait, be very clear because like on what doesn't make sense that we can just cover that. Like if anything just doesn't isn't clicking, just yeah.
No, it makes sense. I just think like I need to think about it for a couple minutes.
Yeah, okay, yeah. No worries, no worries. But yeah, okay. So a plan text is kind of the specific thing that the side government is doing. So if we don't give an amount, if side government doesn't give an amount, and this is more about you can bring up this issue with parent judges, but it's more so with technical judges. And I'll show you what a technical judge looks like. But whenever they don't specify the amount, especially in a funding, or they don't give the time frame, how do you know how much it's supposed to be? This could be very well, like Hunter said, a $1 loan. This could very well be a $1 loan. This could also be $100 trillion loan. Do the arguments against whether it's a $1 loan or $100 trillion loan differ? Yes, vastly, right? In this case, you're arguing like that's not even like, why are we signing a bunch of policy for a $1 loan? In this case, you're arguing we don't have that much money. We literally don't have that much money to give to Pakistan. So your arguments depend very, very greatly on the amount. So therefore, it makes sense for the government side to specify an amount they're giving a loan, like a loan with. Does it make sense? So that's why we have plan text. So usually, the plan text would be the plan, the actor, the agent of enforcement, the time frame, and the funding. And this way, the agent of enforcement is who's enforcing the plan. In this case, it doesn't really make that much sense. If it was like we should pass a law banning affirmative action. I don't know, like assume affirmative action wasn't banned. We should pass a law banning affirmative action. The agent enforcement would be like the legal system, because whoever breaks the law would have to be met with legal repercussions or whatever. It doesn't really matter that much, but just like know that these are the 5 parts of the plan text. Okay, so anyways, back to this. So an advantage, we'll advantage number 1, we'll call this economic growth. The uniqueness, what's bad happening in status quo. Once again, if it's an internet research, which would be most topics, you do like research like, oh, Pakistan's debt, like Pakistan debt, like what, 62 or $223 billion, which is 73% of gross domestic product. It's in like a lot of debt. But okay, then you can see, but it's like kind of like, giving loans are bad. But anyways, you want to outline what's bad happening in the status quo. Then the links. How is the plan going to solve? How is, by doing and voting government, how are you solving this? How are you solving the uniqueness? Very important. If you're inside government, you argue that the status quo is bad. If you're negative, most of the time you're arguing the status quo is a good thing, and that doing the government side is going to make the status quo worse. And status quo just means the current world. I'll just write that somewhere. Status quo, also known as SQUO, because a lot of people like to abbreviate, is the current world. Okay. The links. So
Wait, Shawnak.
Yeah.
Real quick, are we planning to discuss like Sartre at all, just because that's the topic area?
We might a little bit, like a little bit at the end, but this is just more so generally like a tech lecture.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Okay, so the links, it'll be like, okay, how do loans help economies? And you can say, oh, loans allow for the growth of overall money supply and opens up competition. Okay, that's one link, right? So, oopsie. That's like a link. A link here would be opens up competition, leads to new businesses, leads to more jobs, more spending in economy. What are the impacts? Why do I care about more jobs? Well, I care about one, because of a higher quality of life. And there's really only 2 valid impacts. The 2 valid impacts are higher quality of life, or quality of life in general, and death. Those are really the 2, and dehumanization. So higher quality of life, mitigating death, and whatever, undoing dehumanization. These are like the 3 kind of, we call these terminal impacts, because you can't go beyond that. For example, why do I care about job growth? I care about job growth because people get money. Why do I care about people getting money? I care about people getting money because they can get food. Why do I care about people getting food? They survive. You can't get any further than that, right? I mean, maybe you can, but like really, this is the stopping point. That's why death and quality of life are kind of the 2 biggest impacts. And then dehumanization is like, just like, you know, if you can undo like whatever systemic something bad happening, then that's probably another kind of good impact. Anyways, this is just the general structure of how an advantage is, and this is just something you need to know. For a disadvantage, which is very, very, very similar, it'll be like economic downturn. And then instead of arguing the status quo is bad, what do you think you argue in the uniqueness of a disadvantage? Anyone? Just
the status quo is good.
Exactly right. As negative, if you and a key distinction, if you read a counterplan, or you read something else like, oh, the US should give, it's tough, it's really tough in this motion. Most of the time you're not reading a counterplan. Just assume like you're not reading another thing. But you want to argue, because as the negative, you defend the current world. You defend the status quo, which means the uniqueness is good things. So Pakistan's economy is heading in a good direction. And then you would find stats. Right. And there's always stats in a good direction. If you can't defend the uniqueness, if the status quo is literally horrible, then you have to argue that the government plan makes it worse. You have to argue that because you're defending, like, the side government or the affirmative is defending this plan. It's defending a world with this plan. Side negative is arguing the current world. It's arguing the status quo. So ultimately, the status quo may be really, really bad, but if it's better than the other world of giving $500 billion, then you win the round. And you can see, oh, why is Pakistan in so much debt? It's because of loans from China. It's from, when the government borrowed to cope with the impact of high oil prices. So loans led to Pakistan's economy crumbling in the first place. Taking more loans is just going to decrease that quality. And then you just copy the same thing, impacts and links. Okay. Does anyone have any questions on the case layer? I just wanted to bring this up. This is not the tech that a lot of people, when people think of tech, they think of these two things. They don't usually think of case, but I think it's important to note that this is the proper format to structure your arguments with usually most judges. With parent judges, you can do standard claim, more an impact. You can do, like, structure doesn't really matter that much. But if you have, for example, let's see, who's a good example of this? Yeah. Like, for example, this dude has a whole paradigm, and he's like, yeah, reading case is good. I like uniqueness. I like the controls, the direction of the link, et cetera, et cetera. So if you have this judge, and by the way, don't worry, Sophia and Laura, because you're going to be a novice and most judges don't care. But, like, in general, if you're an open, you want to adapt to your judges and their paradigm. If they say, I like uniqueness, I like impacts, or if they're just generally a tech judge, you want to follow. Yeah, Kimi.
Okay, this is just like a general question, but what do you mean by layering? Like, here are the layers. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so I'm just saying these are the different ways in which you can win a debate round. So these are the three unique approaches. So there's the case approach, there's the theory approach, and there's the critique approach. So there are three, and then there's other things. There's, like, IVI, which are like, your opponent was being, like, racist or sexist in round, and like bad. Like, they said, like, slavery is a good thing, or that, like, we should, I don't know, like, we should murder all minorities or some. Oh, I see those things in the chat. Yeah, okay. Anyways, so as saying voters, so think about, like, layers as, like, different ways to, okay, once again, different ways to win a debate round. Voters are, like, the specific things to vote on within a layer. Do you kind of get that? Like, there's case voters, and then there are theory voters, there are, like, critique voters. Do you get that? So, like, they're the specific things within a layer. Anyways, so, okay, I guess you can also
another question.
Yeah.
So for IVS, could it also be, like, say, for example, your opponent goes, like, 1 minute overtime? Could that be considered an IVI, or do you have to run, like, theory?
That's really rare. If they go 1 minute over time, I think both would work in that case. This is IBS are more so most to be like, they say something totally egregious. Like, they say, like, whatever, like, we should go into, like, low income neighborhoods, and then, like, I don't know, and we should, like, do something horrible. Yeah.
What does IVI stand for?
IBI, great question, actually. And IBI stands for an independent voter voting issue. So, as you can tell, it's like something that's, like, independent of the round. It's like literally that they've just done something that's just, yeah, bad, no good. You shouldn't win the round if you say that slavery is a good thing, right? Like, you should just lose. So if you have a tech judge, you can call it an IVI. If you have a parent judge, you just say it like, this is a concern that's, like, you have to consider. But more so, just think about this lecture in terms of you're getting a tech judge. You're getting a judge that's experienced. So for Laura and Sophia, the difference between a tech judge and a parent judge, for example, is like here, for example, whenever you get a judge, let me give you an example. Whenever you get a judge, you'll have things like this. You'll have paradigms. So you'll have your whatever, you'll have your judge, and then if you have a paradigm, you can click on that paradigm, you can see. So for example, some people's paradigms are like, I'm a 3rd-year parent judge. Please keep spreading to minimum emphasis impacts. So in this case, you're not reading anything egregious. In the case that you get a judge like this, then you can read the paradigm. And this guy has like a long, long paradigm. Like he loves theory, he loves critiques, he loves tech case. So just remember, I think Breyer is right about a couple things. And the biggest thing he's right about is that the debate isn't about debaters debating. It's about judges judging. So always adapt to your judge. It doesn't matter what you're good at. Just adapt to what the judge is good at or what the judge wants to see. That's why it's important to have all sorts of styles of debate under your belt. Anyways, back to this. Does anyone have any questions on case? Any questions? So like plan text and the difference between the East Coast and the West Coast way and how like uniqueness links impacts works. Any questions? Because we probably won't go back to this. And don't feel shy on asking. Going once.
Wait, actually, I have a question.
Yeah.
Wait. Actually, never mind. Because I was gonna ask like, which style do you prefer, West versus East Coast? But I remember you saying that you prefer West Coast for tech.
No.
East
Yeah,
Coast.
exactly. Yeah, it's not about even East Coast and West Coast. I would just say like the layway, and then like the West, I just call it West because like it's just traditionally West. West has /tech/flow/experience. Like it's just that it's not that what I prefer. Like if I go to an NYPDL, I'm not saying the uniqueness, the links, the impacts. Probably not. But at an NYPDL, I'll probably say Claymore and impact if the judges are that. So whatever the judge likes, whatever the judge's experience is, and you can see the judge's experience by going to the record, right? Like a lot of people don't do this, and a lot of people should do this. So for example, she is judging she's judging state qualifiers and Jack Howe. This is very West Coast. I would probably give uniqueness links impacts, and maybe I'll give Claymore an impact. But for example, like yeah, like what's an example of like a person I would run CWI with? I'd go to NYPDL. No, this person is not that. No. Wait, these people are like decent judges actually. What's an example? Like, damn, why did I get a lot of flow judges? I got a lot of flow judges. Okay, yeah. Like, yeah. This dude is judging like NYPDLs and Yale. You see, right? He's judging Yale, he's judging NYPDLs, and he's judging like NPDL. So in this case, you probably want to keep it to their style of Claymore and impact because Yale is on the East Coast. If you guys don't know that, but yeah. Okay, back to this. So I think we're done with case. We'll put
Wait,
cases.
Shawnak, real quick.
Yeah.
Based on this tournament, this is a West Coast tournament, right? So would you recommend primarily debating West Coast?
Well, once again, it's like it completely depends on the judge. It's not a West Coast tournament. It's supposed to be like a nation tournament, not supposed to be centered in like any particular area. But once again, like it's completely dependent on the judges. Like Side Beckford, like okay, this person is very, very experienced. It literally does not matter. Like I've never seen that many. That's actually crazy. That's actually insane. But like it's once again, it just depends on the judge. Like Sanjeev Dutt, parent judges, no theory, no case. So you would not run theory with this dude. And you can see this dude is judging all West Coast, right? You probably want to keep it slower. You want to, if you ever use the word uniqueness, always, and you have like even a shadow of doubt, the judge doesn't understand what uniqueness is, just explain uniqueness is what's happening in the status quo. So whenever you use a buzzword to the parents, just generally always explain what that buzzword is, just to be err on the side of caution. Yeah, like Everett Rutan, you can see he's judging NYPDLs. Like you probably use the East Coast format with him, but I think he'd be fine with anything. It's more so about just communicating you understand to the judge. Okay, anything else before we move on? Okay. Perfect. Now we'll go into theory. Okay. So theory, very simply put, is first one, does anyone have a anyone have an instance or the definition of an instance when you would run theory?
Me.
Balzar.
When your opponents run a super abusive counterplan.
Yeah, I'm talking more. Yes, of course, but more generally. Like, when do you pull the trigger on theory? When do you run theory?
Opponent doesn't give a time frame for the plan on the affirmation side.
That's once again, that's a very good example, but that's very specific. I'm talking about
Oh.
general statement.
Just
Oh,
like a like
your
a
opponent-
violation in the round.
Violation of the norms.
Violation.
You're getting closer. You're getting closer. Norms and okay, most people say rules, but I guess norms is like the better word. So you run theory when your opponents broke a rule or norm debate. Very simply put. I can also like go through, like maybe Katie explained this even better. But yes, theory is the argument about a rule or norm in debate. And so it's like, for example, let's say the topic is, I love giving this example because I think it's very easy to understand. But the topic is the US should ban the US should ban all microplastics. So government side is going to come up and say why banning microplastics is a good thing. Then the negative side comes up and says the US should ban 99.99% of the microplastics, except for the ones in our computers doing the debate round. Is this a sufficient neg advocacy? Is this inherently like, does this work? Yeah, because the 99.99% does not equal all, right? So side government has to defend banning all microplastics. Side negative can say, well, we don't ban all, we ban every single one except for my computer I'm holding right here, right? Technically, there's nothing in the rules that says you can't do that, right? That's technically totally valid, totally legit. But what does this do? Like, what happens? Or why is this rather unfair? Or why should we not do this? Anyone?
Removes clash.
Sure, but just generally, just big statement.
Side negative like is just winning on this because they have like all the positives of government side, except for like a small difference.
Right. Yeah. So effectively, they are arguing for essentially the same thing, but the negative gets to choose the ground. Does Sophia and Laura, does this make sense?
Could you share the doc with us, by the way?
Oh yeah, I can share with you guys. Anyone should like. Here, I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, this does generally make sense.
Okay, what about, I see you're a little bit hesitant. Like, what about this doesn't make, I guess, like what's, I guess, just confusing a little bit.
So the negative gets to choose the route, like, or just the last part, I don't understand.
Okay, so you can make infinite variations of this, right? Do you agree? You can say 99.93
Yeah,
in the beta run, and my scissor is right here.
okay.
You're not banning.
Whatever they're arguing for, while
Yeah,
all argue against it.
right. So the government has to advocate for all microplastics, whereas the negative can choose. They can literally choose their ground. They can say,
I see.
they can say we're banning 99, 98, 97, 96. That's kind of unfair, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? So even if they have, and then what happens? What happens when the government side preps this and the negative side preps this? Well, then the debate doesn't become about 100% versus 0%. It becomes a debate about 100% versus 99.99%, which means what happens? We are debating not over 100% differences, but over a 0.001% difference. Why is this bad? Well, this limits the amount of education we can get from this round. You agree, right? If we're talking about whether we should ban this scissor or we should not ban this scissor, that's irrelevant. We were supposed to talk about banning microplastics and not banning microplastics. But instead, we're talking about whether we should ban a scissor or we should not ban a scissor. That's not what the topic writers wanted us to discuss. They wanted us to discuss whether banning this was, or whether banning microplastics was a good idea or a bad idea. So in this case, you would run theory. And so now it's going to get very technical. So there are effectively two ways of running theory. There's shell form and there's paragraph form. So shell form is how you would run it 99% of the time. With tech judges. If you have a tech judge, if you have an experienced judge who says, I like theory, or even a judge that's like, I'm receptive to theory, but don't make it frivolous. This is a very clear example where if you don't read a theory shell, you will probably lose the round. You will probably lose the round. If you don't make this a voting concern, if you don't say, this is super unfair, I can't engage with this debate, then you will probably lose the round because they will have 17 reasons why this scissor is a good scissor. And you will have 0 reasons why this scissor is a bad scissor. Do you understand that? So they get 20 minutes of prep time to prep a very specific ground, and the affirmation has no prep time. So it becomes so unfair that you will most likely always lose the round. And I'm giving you a stupid example, but this happens all the time. Like, for example, I'll show you examples later. But like there's a topic where this is the exact topic, and the negative runs, we should ban all microplastic except for shrink wrap. And shrink wrap is like a very small section of microplastics. And then the negative prepped 20 reasons why shrink wrap is good. And the government had no reasons why shrink wrap was bad. And they ran theory and they won the round on a 3-0. They won very cleanly on the theory shell. All judges bought it and voted off of it. So yeah, the shell form. So there are 5 parts. So stick with me here. First, some of you, probably all of you have heard this before. A is the interpretation. The interpretation is just the rule or norm you are setting for debate. Wait, and let's just see. Yeah, I've already talked about you have to establish, you have to like theory is the argument that you have to know the rules of the game before you can play the game. So theory is effectively like setting a rule, saying you can't run 99.99% counter plans, or you can't run a counter plan, or you must accept 3 POIs, or I guess, okay, a POI is an argument that you make that's like, sorry, a POI is a question that you ask during another person's speech. For example, if the government says giving their speech and you ask a POI, you're like, POI, what is this? Or POI, doesn't this happen? Whatever. And they can reject and accept POIs. It's just questions. Yeah, debate has very few rules. So I told Akimi and Aaron this. So one of you, what's really the only rule in debate we have?
Speech times.
Speech times, right. Like I can't get up here. If I'm allotted 7 minutes, if I'm given 7 minutes to make a speech, I can't come up here and spend 15 minutes giving a speech, right? Like that doesn't make any sense. I just broke the rules. And let's say I came up here for 15 minutes and I made 20 arguments and I won the debate round. Like I had 20 arguments. Sure, I went 8 minutes over time, but I won the debate round. I had more arguments than you. Why does it mean I still lose the debate round? Well, because if you break the rules, if you break the norms, that's a prior question. If you break the rules or you break the norms, then you can't win the debate round. You lose the debate round. Does everyone get that? Okay, perfect. Yeah, okay. So when you consider mind running theory, you think your opponents broke a rule of debate, you think you did something unfair, you think the government is not abiding by the topic. So like in this example of banning microplastics, in this example of banning all microplastics, they start talking about banning plastics. Like there's a distinction between microplastics and plastics. I mean, maybe it's like the same thing. Or maybe they start like, I don't know. They do something that's not topical. Or they say, as the government, we will ban 50% of plastics. Well, the topic is all. So why are you banning only 50%? This is when you would run topicality. Topicality is the argument that you didn't fulfill your burden. You didn't do what the topic demanded you to do. This is called topicality. It's run by the negative on the affirmative. Yeah, some teams will also use theories as a strategic argument, and it's known as FRIFT. we'll get it, like, just forget about this for now. Yeah, examples when you might run theory. Your opponent spoke way over time. The neg ran a counter plan that you think is unfair, like our 99% example. They ran a very confusing advocacy and refused to accept POIs. Your opponent spoke super fast and didn't slow down when asked. Like, these are all examples of when you would run theory, or Frip. We'll talk about this one later. Yeah. Okay. So let's just go over the format. So the interpretation here is the rule or norm you're setting for debate. So can someone give me an example of an interpretation?
Don't go over time.
Not a good interpretation, but yes, right spirit. but
Oh,
not-
yeah, okay. I wasn't giving one super specific, but like, don't spend over like 20 seconds, like speaking out of time, or like don't go over your time by like 20 seconds.
There's something missing from that interpretation. Who is not going over 20 seconds? The judge?
The opponent or the debaters. Debaters shouldn't go over 20 seconds of their speaking time.
Debaters should not go over 20 seconds above their allotted speech time. And you want to make your interpretation, whenever you're running theory, as specific as possible. Because what happens if you say, what happens if you say this actually? There's a very good response. Like, for example, let's say the first speaker goes, so the first speech is 7 minutes. Let's say the first speaker goes to 9 minutes. Okay, which is not going to happen, but let's say it happens. They can say, well, I'm actually allotted 12 minutes because I'm the first speaker and I'm the last speaker. So I'm allotted 12 minutes. So I didn't actually go 20 seconds above my allotted speech time. What would you say to that?
Maybe I'd refer it to like, debaters shouldn't go over 20 seconds over each of their individual speech times, like the 8 minutes and then the 4 minutes.
Yeah, you can say should not go 20 seconds over their individual what you can do is say, to clarify, and you can always do this, to clarify, this means that the first affirmative speech must not exceed 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Does this make sense? Okay, someone give me another interpretation.
Gov provide a plan, or
Gov
like,
has to provide a plan. Who sees a big flaw in this interpretation?
or has to read a counter plan, or you must read a counter plan or something.
You must read a counter plan, so the government has to read a counter plan.
Or opposition has to read a counter plan.
Wait. But first, who sees a big problem with this interpretation?
Well, a plan is for a policy round. What if it's value or fact? You don't typically run plans there.
Right. So there are actually lots of problems with this interpretation. One of them is, like Indra said, what if it's actually a fact round? What if it's like we ought to prioritize individual actions over societal actions, or something like that. How do you do a plan? Who's doing what plan, right? This is a value round, right? So, or Donald Trump is guilty of federal crimes, something like that. This is a fact statement. This is a true or not true statement. The burden of the government is to prove the resolution is true. The burden of the negative is to prove the resolution is false. So you can't provide a plan. What's another big problem? And this is when writing interpretations, big mistake a lot of teams make. Just Kai, do you see flaw?
They can sort of we meet in MG and just give a plan then.
Exactly right. In the first speech, they don't. This means, according to their interpretation, the PMC can give no plan. Then the LOC, which is the next speech, says Gov must provide a plan. Then in the next speech, the MG, they say, okay, here's our plan. So what happens? Well, all he said is Gov has to provide a plan. And they said, okay, here's our plan. So we meet that. How do you solve for that? How do you make sure they can't just bring up their speech? They can't just bring up their plan in the next speech.
You say they must provide in the PMC.
PMC, yeah, the PMC has to provide a plan, or we call it the 1AC. Oh, and actually, a lot of people don't know this actually. So this is actually good to know. The PMC is also known as the 1AC, which is 7 minutes long. What does this stand for? What do both abbreviations stand for? Someone quickly.
Prime Minister Constructive.
Prime Minister Constructive. Oh, shoot, sorry. Prime Minister Constructive. And what does this say? First affirmative constructive. Okay, what's the next speech called? Yeah, this is known as the 1NC. This is 8 minutes. This is the leader of opposition constructive and first negative constructive. Then the MG or the 2AC, which is 8 minutes, which is the member of government and second affirmative constructive. So when they say they must provide in the constructive speeches, that actually doesn't mean the first speech. That also means the second speech. The 2NC, 8 minutes. Oh, yeah, is the member of opposition and second negative constructive. Then the LOR or the 1NR, which is 4 minutes, which is the leader of opposition rebuttal and first negative rebuttal. And then the PMR or the 1AR, which is 5 minutes, which is the prime minister rebuttal and first affirmative rebuttal. Okay, that was a lot. Some of you know this, some of you don't know this. For the novices, does this make sense? This speech time thing, sort of?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's a lot. Breyer does not teach. Do you guys know the speech times, by the way?
I wrote it down somewhere.
Okay,
Yeah, I
okay.
think Mika taught us one day.
Yeah, so Breyer doesn't actually teach anything. So it's a bit of a problem. Oh wait, I shouldn't be saying that on this recording. Shit. Okay, never mind. Anyways, Breyer's really, really good. He's amazing. But yeah, okay, so yeah, the PMC or the 1AC is 7 minutes long. Very important to know these because this is how you're going to refer to a speech. Always you need to know this to like communicate. Okay. Yeah, so the PMC or the 1AC has part of a plan. There's still some problems with this. What's part of a plan? Oh, my plan is that I'm going to go and do the resolution. Well, that's not very specific. Okay, has to write a plan with an actor, time frame, funding, and agent of enforcement. Okay, this is an interpretation. This is specific enough so the other side cannot come up and say, oh, like we meet this, which I'll go over later on how to respond to theory. Okay, that's the first part. Anyone have any questions on interpretations? The interpretation is not gov broke a rule. That's not the interpretation. The interpretation is the rule you're setting for debate. Everyone get that? Okay. The violation here is how they broke that rule or norm. For example, in the speech time example, the 1AC, I'm using terms already, the 1AC spoke for 8 minutes when the allotted speech time maximum was 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Right? This is the violation. They violate this. Now, this is just proving that they violated something. For example, if it was all debaters must accept 2 POIs in each speech when asked. Right? The violation for that could be they didn't accept any POIs. right? So it's just proving how they broke. So you're outlining the rule, and then you're outlining how they broke the rule. Simply put. Now, standards. This is where the meat of the theory debate happens. This is where you prove, why is this rule a good rule? This is where you prove that. Because I can say, oh, all debaters must give Shawnak Shivakumar 2 packs of ramen noodles for the round. But why is this like a good rule? Like, we don't know why this is a good rule or a bad rule. You have to support that rule with your standards. And to be honest, there's not really a good rule. There's not really a good reason why we're creating this rule. So you need to have good standards. And there's a list of standards. Yeah, there we go. Don't get overwhelmed. But these are some of the most common standards. Predictability. Can anyone explain predictability as a standard?
That like in a policy round, government will run or will have a plan to actually execute whatever's happening or whatever policy is being proposed in the topic.
You're thinking like what you're thinking again, like a specific instance of like predictability. But what is predictability as a concept?
When people do something that's typically established, like in most cases.
Right. So let's say whatever, like let's say the affirmative doesn't, oh wait, okay, let's just generally, the affirmative doesn't defend the resolution. They run a critique. They say, we're not debating this. Screw this. This motion is useless. We're going to debate something else. Is that predictable? No. So predictability is saying that something has to be predictable enough to engage with it. I don't even know how to spell. Should I spell predictable? How do you spell predictable? Okay, predictable. So predictability is like when something is predictable. If something is unpredictable, you can't engage with it. Okay, another standard, ground. Once again, we kind of established what ground was before, but like, yeah, effectively like the amount of space each side has to work with, right? If one side is very, very small space to work with, and the other side is much more space, that's kind of unfair. Another important standard is like reciprocity, which is the idea that both sides must do equal work to earn the win. Does everyone get this? Can somebody give me an example of reciprocity? A little bit.
Like if Gov like gives a plan, opposition also has to give a plan in order to win.
Right. So this is like an example of that would be, an interpretation would be the 1 and C must read a counter plan with the same actor. And then you define what a counter plan is. It's like an alternative action. Which means that this is a standard for that. Why is this a standard? Well, the government, okay, let me just ask a general question. As humans, are we more inclined towards change or towards no change?
No change.
No.
No change, right? We always prefer the world, and we're comfortable with the world we live with. So naturally, it's unfair if one side is proposing change and the other side is proposing no change, because one side already has a psychological bias, because we are all psychologically biased to prefer the status quo. So it is reciprocal. There is reciprocity in having both sides read in a change, some change to the status quo. That's why it's fair. Does everyone get that? There's other examples. Like prep skew. Prep skew is an important one. But really, you can read almost anything. Prep skew is like for example, like in the microplastics example, they one side preps for 20 minutes, 17 reasons why the scissor is good. Other side, all the prep has gone to waste. All the prep, because it didn't prep the scissors, right? Okay. Voters. There are 2 big voters. What are 2 voters? Someone. 2 voters.
Fairness in education.
Hunter was gonna say it, but he cut out. Yeah, fairness and education. What is the difference? Can someone explain between a voter and a standard? Because this seems like education and prep skew, they sound kind of similar. Or like fairness and reciprocity, they sound very similar, right? But like, what's the distinction?
Wait, is it that like voters, like they're always gonna have to do with like, or they always have to have something to do with like fairness and education, but then like standards for every round can change based on the offense or abuse that the other side committed?
Yeah, that's very close. I would say that standards are like in round debate like norms. Like these are like in round. These are like tangible debate concepts, like prep skew. Like your prep literally got skewed, or your ground got stolen, or you couldn't predict. But what does that actually lead to? What is the it's like, once again, it's like impact and terminal impact, right? So if I go back here, it's like saying the standards are like job growth. But why do I care about job growth? I care about it because they survive. I care about it because there's a higher quality of life. That's why it's the same thing here. Standards, why do I care about predictability? Why do I care that I can predict something? Because it's fair, because it gets us more education. And the rationale for this is fairness. If the game is unfair, nobody will play the game. Nobody will play the game. And education, if the game is uneducational, then we have a debate program at MA, right? Like the schools fund this. The schools take time and invest in this. Why don't they invest in like a Fortnite club or something, or a Minecraft server, or like, I don't know, something other random thing? Because debate is educational. The school educators don't care if debate is fair. Frankly, they don't. Like, do you think like our principal cares if we're having fair debate rounds? Like, he doesn't care at all. He does care though if we're learning about topics, if we're learning about like actually good education, if we're becoming like good people, if we're not becoming good, we're becoming horrible people. But like if we're learning about the world, if we're actually engaging with the world, right? That's what he cares about. He cares about education. But we as debaters, we also care about fairness, right? So these are the two things. So the rationale here is then school administrators will not fund debate, which means what happens if school administrators don't fund debate? Debate collapses. No one debates. So you can see how he impacted out speaking over time 1 minute. You spoke over time for 1 minute to debate collapsing. But it's the same thing you do in actual debate, where one small change leads to some massive, massive impact. Okay. Underview now. And also, I guess you can toss in one more here thing about accessibility. Just like people's ability to access the space. Can be a standard, can be a voter. Accessibility is sometimes a voter, sometimes a standard. I mean, it can be both. It's just like more people debating. Thank you, Hunter. Okay. The underview. The underview is the most technical part. It's comprised of 4 parts. Theory is an a priori voter. Throughout the debater. Competing interpretations, over reasonability, and no RVS. And I'll explain all of these one by one. Can someone explain theories and a priori voter?
Theory should be like weighed
You have
before.
okay, thanks.
What?
Yeah, theory should be weighed and considered by the judge, like before any other aspects of the case.
Right. So theory must be considered before going to the case layer. We refer back to our layers. Why? Well, I established before, if I spoke for 25 minutes and I had 25 unresponded to arguments, if I had all the arguments in the world and they all went unresponded to, I won on the case layer. But that doesn't mean I should win the round because I broke some rules or I broke some norms. Therefore, I should lose the round on theory first. So theory is an a priori voter. Theory must be considered first before going to the case layer. The tagline along with this is you have to establish the rules of the game before you can play. Yes, Akimi. Or were you saying something, Akimi?
I said type shit.
Okay. Drop the debater. Okay. What happens if you prove that you win this round? If you win this theory shell, if you prove, right? If you prove that they broke a very important norm that kills our fairness, that kills our education, and we know that theory comes first. What do you do with that? Well, the side that breaks the norm should lose the round. This is known as being dropped. There are two versions: drop the debater and drop the argument. You always want to go over drop the debate. Like, who cares if you drop? Like, this is mostly like for counter plans. Like, if they run in a very abusive counter plan, do you want to say drop the counter plan or drop them from the entire round? Well, you probably want to say drop them from the entire round. They're going to respond to this by saying, "Oh, just drop our counter plan. Just drop it. We won't advocate for a counter plan." But then in response to that, you argue, "Oh, you already ran the counter plan. You already committed the abuse. You've already made this round very uneducational. The only way to rectify that is for you to lose the round. There's no dropping the counter plan. There's no like, if I murder somebody, I'm not gonna, or if I like, I don't know, if I like, I don't know, punch somebody, I can't unpunch somebody. Like I've already punched someone. Like you can't undo what you've already done." Competing interpretations over reasonability. This is the part that says that each side must have an interpretation. Each side must have an interpretation. And as the judge, you should compare the two interpretations to choose the better one. So, for example, if you say all debaters must accept 2 POIs in each speech when asked, the opponent has to say all debaters may choose to accept POIs. Do you see how these are in kind of direct conflict with each other? One is may choose, one is forced to. So one side is arguing for may choosing being better, and one side is arguing for must accepting is better. And competing interp says if they don't have this, if they don't have a competing interp, they lose the round because it's we don't know what world they're advocating for. If they don't give this general blanket interpretation, then we don't know whether they could be advocating for just 1 POI or 3 POIs or no POIs or POIs are just bad in general. So we don't know. So that's why this is why you have competing interps over reasonability and no RVIs. RVI stand for reverse voting issues. Reverse voting issues. Reverse voting issues are it's the argument, and I gave this example to Aaron yesterday. So imagine you got sued, like, or imagine you're suing somebody for trespassing. Imagine you're suing someone for trespassing in court, and you're saying the rule is you should not trespass on my court, or the interpretation is that you must not trespass in my court. The violation is that you did trespass in my court. The standards: 1, I own this land. You whatever. I don't know what a tagline would be like. I don't know, like something. Anyways, they broke this rule, therefore they should lose the round. Okay, great. And let's say we do prove that, and let's say they trespass, and what happens? What's up? Oh, I guess my brother wants to listen too. Okay, anyways, so let's say like they do trespass and you prove they're guilty in court. Well, then you win the round. You get money from them, right? That's how a lawsuit works, right? If you prove the other side is guilty, you get money from them. However, what happens if they prove they actually weren't trespassing? Your house is right here, and I was like right here, and I'm actually technically not on your land. So you still filed a lawsuit, but they weren't guilty of it. What would happen? Well, the lawsuit would be dropped, right? So a reverse voting issue is the argument that you should actually pay compensation for filing a fake lawsuit, that you should actually lose the round for running a theory shell that actually we didn't violate, or we have a better interpretation. So reverse voting issue is the argument that the team being run theory on, a little bit complicated, but let's say I'm running it on Akimi. I'm running theory on Akimi. Akimi would say RVIs are good. If I win the theory shell, vote for me on the RVI, because theory should be a win for both teams, right? It doesn't make sense for one team to win the round and if the other team wins the theory shell, nothing happens. We just move on. That shouldn't happen. If I file a lawsuit against you and I lose the lawsuit, I should have to pay compensation to you for wasting your time, right? That's the argument of an RBI. If you're running a theory shell, you want to say no RBIs. Why would you want to say no RBIs if you're the one running the theory shell?
To
Because
prevent
even
yourself
if
from losing.
What?
even if the person like answers all of the shells within the theory and like debunks it, like you still should be able to like continue a regular debate.
Right. Exactly right. You want it to be a way for you to win, but not a way for you to lose. Does that make sense? This is a very confusing concept, actually. So please ask questions. Seriously, no one has any questions on this? Does all of you get this? There's no way. There's no way. Okay, wait. Sophia and Laura, I mean, I don't know, like, okay, this is lot. I'm dumping information. Do you guys get this, sort of?
Yeah, I think.
Think? Well, yeah, this will be all here, so you can rewatch it, and you can always ask me questions. I have to just get through like a lot. I'm gonna go through some advanced stuff after this. So it's gonna ramp up really quickly. But just any questions, just rewatch it, or I don't know, send me a message or something. But yeah, if you run theory, you want to say no RBIs. So you can win on theory, and you don't lose on theory. If you are the team that theory is being run on, I don't know how to like say it in few words, but you want to say yes RBIs so that you can also win the round on the theory shell. Now, when giving an RBI, most people forget about giving a condition for which they get the RBI. This is very important. So when you say RBI's good, you have to give a condition for which you get the RBI. What does this mean? Okay, so one example of a condition could be we didn't violate their interpretation. If we prove we just met your shell, if we prove that we actually did accept 2 POIs, you just didn't hear us. We accepted 2 POIs. Like you said POI and I said yes very softly, and then you didn't ask a question. Then I should win the round because that's the condition. Do you get that? Do you guys get that? Secondly, if my counter interpretation, wait, I'm actually jumping a little bit. If my, okay, wait, I probably have to get back to this on the RBI is good. Okay, so that's reading theory. Now we'll go responding to theory. If there's anything else that Katie has here. Yes. Okay, yeah. So responding to theory, there's 2 ways to respond to theory. There's a we meet and there's a counter interpretation. You want to always read both. So responding to theory, and this actually might be just like good. But yes, like you want to read both of these. So first, you want to read a we meet. A we meet is the argument that you did not violate the interpretation. So what part of the theory shell is it attacking? Can someone give me what part of this theory shell is it attacking? A, B, C, D, or E?
A.
No.
Oh,
B.
It's not saying this is a bad rule. I never said that debaters should go 20 seconds over their speech times, but I didn't. I didn't violate your rule. So we meet target the violation part. They don't target the interpretation. Yeah, Kimi.
Wait, but what if you did violate it?
Yeah, is that totally fine. you still want to read a we meet, just in case. Because most tech judges and a lot of people, they concede we meets. What happens when you concede a we meet? The entire theory show goes moot, right? All of this, it's a good rule. They should lose the round, yada, yada. They say all of this. If we prove that we just didn't, if we met your theory shell, all of it doesn't matter, right? Because we met it. So you always, even if you violated, even if you know you violated, you want to give a 5-second we meet. Oh, we met this shell because individual speech times means our total speech time. And as the first speaker, I have 12 minutes and I went 9 minutes, which is less than 12. Just have that on the flow because this is tech debate, right? You want to have that on the flow, even though, because if that goes unresponded to, you can wash out all of their offense. You get what I'm saying? Melanie Goldberg is known for her crazy we meets. She is known for getting out every theory shell because of her crazy we meets. For example, was that like I think Vesta ran the PM has to provide a plan with an active time frame and funding. The PM just means prime minister. So in the final speech, which once again, what's the PM? The final speech is the PMR. They provided a plan text. They meet the shell, right? So always read a we meet. Like all debaters must accept 2 POIs. You say, I did say I accepted POIs. Like I said yes. But you just didn't hear me. I said it very softly. You just say it like on the flow. Like it's once again, you just say it. They'll most likely say, yeah, that's bullshit. We didn't hear it. Judge didn't hear it. You should at least you should accept it with a loud enough response. But then what happens? Nothing happens. They just move on. It's an equal time trade-off. Think about debate as time trade-offs, right? So it's good to have that argument on the flow. Sort of hard to understand, but think about it like I think Kai told me once, like a positive like elixir trade. Like think about it like you want to like time is the elixir, right? You want to obviously think about what's going to give you the most bang for your buck, right? Like a we meet will literally kill their whole theory shell, right? It would say like, I didn't violate anything. Why are you running this theory shell? So you just want to have it on the flow. And if they drop a we meet, then you can extend the we meet and win off the we meet. Okay. So yes, this is the first way. It's a we meet. The second way is a counter interpretation. And by the way, these are not like you do one or the other. You do both. Always both. Always. And I know a lot of teams that just read counter interpretations because they know they violated, but always read a we meet. Like always. Counter interpretation is just, once again, just your interpretation, specifically the opposite. So when they say the neg is not entitled to a delay CP or a CP, you say the counter interpretation, the neg is entitled to a CP. So in the example of debaters must accept 2 POIs in a speech when asked, you say debaters may choose to accept POIs. That's a counter interpretation. That's a separate rule. That's a separate norm for debate. Everyone get that? So the competing interpretation is this interpretation, or sorry, yeah, debaters must choose to accept POIs and this interpretation. Yeah? Everyone get that? Okay. Now you go on to counter standards. And these are just like standards, except for it's for your counter interpretation. It's reasons why your counter interpretation is a good interpretation, right? It's exactly the standards, right? Exactly like whatever, predictability, ground, time skew, topic skew, whatever, these kind of things. Depth education. It's just standards for why your counter interpretation is a good interpretation. Do you get that? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Wait,
And
can
then
you give an example?
yeah. So in debaters may choose to accept POIs. One is time skew. POIs take up time to ask and respond to. Each POI can go up to 15 to 30 seconds, and 2 POIs would mean a full minute of my speech is wasted. That minute can be used on discussing whatever, on responding to arguments, which means accepting POIs puts the team at a structural disadvantage. Do you get that? This is a reason why this interpretation is better than this interpretation. Okay, now you just need 1 to 2 counter standards. You don't need a lot. After your counter interpretation, or after your counter standards, oh, sorry, I should call this counter standards. You then go on to, you then go into the line by line of the standards. So you know how back here we ran predictability, reciprocity, prep skew. It's just like mini Claymore and impacts. Respond to predictability, respond to reciprocity, respond to prep skew. And I'll show you an example of this. Yeah. And then respond to the voters. And then, yeah, and then whatever, read an RVI. Okay, here's an example. Katie actually gave a pretty good example here. Yeah, okay, anyways. So a plan inclusive counterplan. Does anyone know what that is? A pick. Kai, what's a pick?
Is it a counter plan that says you're going to do what the affirmation plan is and an additional thing?
Very close. It's doing what the affirmative does minus a small thing, or it could be add. So these are commonly known as pick minuses or pick pluses. Pick plus is when you do the affirmative plan plus something else, which is kind of sketchy because then the affirmative can just do what they're doing plus an additional thing, which is just a perm. Or the most common is a pick minus. This example of 99.93 is a pick minus. Why? Why is this a pick minus? We're banning all minus 0.007%. Do you get that? They're doing the whole government plan minus a small part of the government plan. That's called a plan inclusive counterplan or a pick. You get that? So then imagine this is in the MG. So first speech is normal. Microplastics are so bad, they kill people, end up in our food, it destroys our ecosystems, it leads to humans eating microplastic, which leads to healthcare systems being overflooded, which leads to mass death. Okay, the negative, next speech, the LOC comes up. Instead of, our counterplan is to ban 99.98% of microplastics, excluding my scissor. We agree, microplastics are so bad, they literally kill everybody. But I need the scissor. I need the scissor to cut paper. If I don't have the scissor, I will literally die. I will literally die because this scissor is so instrumental to my survival. I don't know, something like that. Then in the next speech, in the MG, this is where you run the theory shell. You say, interpretation, the LOC may not run a plan inclusive counterplan. The violation, they ran a pick. A pick is a counterplan that includes part of the AF plan minus something else. Or like the affirmative plan minus something. Standards, 1, ground. Picks allow the neg to steal the AF's ground, letting them advocate for the same arguments. Stealing ground harms fairness because we can't participate well in the debate if our opponents are being prepped or being stolen by our opponents, right? Second, clash. We restrict clash. They just use our arguments against us. There's minimal disagreement. Instead of discussing 100%, we discuss 0.001%. There's no clash in the round anymore. Voters, whatever, fairness, education, and then, yeah, whatever the underview, right? So responding. Now let's say this is run on you. Now you want to respond to it. First, we meet. Our counterplan isn't actually a pick. Because I don't know what you would do in that case. Like it would be like it's not a pick because like scissors are actually a really, really big part of like there's actually no way to we meet this. Like, there's actually no way. But like most shells you'll be able to we meet. But yeah, this is kind of like, yeah, this is kind of cooked. You can say they weren't specific. What's a plan inclusive counter plan? I don't know. Yeah, but then this is the main part, the counter inter. The LOC may run a plan inclusive counter plan. Counter standards 1, real world education. Picks are important for real education because policymakers often propose slight modifications of original bills. Think about what happens in the real world. Do we pass the most fair bill or do we pass the best bill? We pass the best bill. In Congress, we don't pass the bill that's proposed first. We propose the bill that's actually genuinely the best. So if one bill is actually better than another bill, but it's slightly different, you should still vote for that bill because that's how they do it in the real world. Once again, real education is only important. Think about it. 2, like strategy skew. The AF gets to choose from like a number of plans. Picks gives us ground. We can run an advocacy, etc., like reciprocity. Then you respond to their standards. Ground. You respond, we don't harm your ground because you're still able to advocate, whatever. The AF should be prepared to defend all of the plan, etc. Then respond to clash. Then respond to the voters. Then respond to whatever. Most of the time you can just agree, and then you'd read an RVI. Okay? So that's like an example of like a theory shell and a response to a theory shell. Now, responses are just general questions on theory.
I have a question about RVIs. So, like in an actual debate round, how would you like counter or like how would you like justify an RVI basically?
Right. So, there are reasons for RVI is good and RVI is bad. I think there are. I think like RVIs. Yeah, RVIs. Oh yes. Okay. So this is a good example. RVIs discourage theory. If you say yes, RVIs, what happens now? All of a sudden, debaters become afraid to run theory because they get scared they're going to lose in the theory shell, which means that actual genuine abuse doesn't get checked back against because they're scared that debaters are just going to, whatever, they're going to beat them on the RVI. Also, theory baiting. Oh, here, I'll write this. Yes. No RVIs. Theory baiting. Theory baiting is when teams commit abuse on purpose. So I committed abuse on purpose, baiting you to run theory on me, but because I'm a better theory debater, I can beat you on the RVI, and I can win the theory shell. Do you get that?
Yeah. Okay.
The reason for no RVI because yeah.
Okay. What would be?
Oh, you keep cutting out.
What would be a reason for RVIs?
Yeah. So, once again, here, check back against abuse. Theory becomes very abusive. Look to frivolous theory. Look to shoe theory. Look to tropicality. Look to hydration. Look to all these frivolous shells that can be run with no risk, right? If there's no risk to running theory, then debate just becomes inundated by theory shows. Just theory shows go on and over again. Just like everyone just keeps running theory shows because they know they can't lose on theory shells. But RVIs check back against that abuse. It gives both sides equal paths to the ballot. And I actually have OS theory weighing arguments. This is I'll send like this is Nueva's actually. I can send this to you guys. But yeah, here's 6 reasons why RVIs are good, and here are 5 reasons why RVIs are bad. So lots of reasons. Yeah, RVIs kill substantive debate. RVIs are educational. RVIs arrest abuse. Disincentivize bad. Oh yeah, disincentivize bad theory, right? If you say yes RVIs, then debaters aren't going to run tropicality or shoe theory or like random nonsense theory because they know they're going to lose on it, right? They know they're going to lose on it if they run all this garbage. So we actually get productive debate. Okay. Anything else on theory? Kai, is there anything I didn't cover responding to theory or theory-wise? Oh, is Kai here? Oh, Kai's not even here. Wait, who's okay? Well, let me see. Oh, okay, yeah, one thing. Yes. Know what an OCI is. An OCI is an offensive counter interpretation. What do I mean by this? Well, an interpretation could be all debaters must accept two POIs, right? A regular counter interpretation would be what? Debaters may choose to accept POIs. An offensive counter interp, which is what you probably want to run, because this actually means, so what happens here? What is missing from, or I'll write it first. The affirmative may not force the negative to accept two POIs via a theory, via running theory. Or debate teams may not force their opponents. Yeah, this is a better interp. What is the difference between this interp and this interp? The key word is this word. Oh, my laptop's running out of charge. Wait, I'll be back. I need to get my charger. Think about this. I'll call on someone randomly. I'm literally gonna call someone. Okay. Who has an answer before I randomly call? No? Really? Nobody? Okay. Aaron.
Is it that debate teams may not force their opponents to accept POIs via running theory is offensive because it is basically just saying that their theory specifically is offensive rather than a broader rule? So
Sort of. Anyone else have an idea? Aditya, what do you think?
I think it's I feel like like a offensive counter interpretation is saying that like it's like by saying that if you do it or if you basically like whatever they're saying is like the or whatever the like other side is saying is the interpretation of like what not to do. If the other side does it, that it's like they actually win.
Yeah, you're actually getting closer. Wait, Akimi?
Okay, wait, I feel like is it like the first counter interpretation? You're saying like, oh, like we may choose to do this, and it's more kind of like giving option, and it's like, but like the second one, it's like their use of like forcing you're like forcing me, and that's why you're like being abusive. Like it's
Sort of. Sort of.
offensive. Like I don't know.
So what happens if let's say there's no RBIs? No RBIs, okay? So you don't win by just proving you're innocent. What happens if you win this?
Nothing, basically.
Nothing. What happens if you win this? Oh. Thank you. What happens if you win that?
The opponents gets dropped because they force their opponent to
Because,
POI.
exactly right, there is no violation here. However, yes violation here. Why? The team running theory has no violation in this counter interp. However, the team running theory has a violation here. Do you see that? This is very important to see. If you have questions, ask. Akimi, you get it now? Explain it.
Wait, my Wi-Fi is pretty bad right now.
Explain it. Come on.
I think I could explain it.
Okay, Aaron, explain it.
So it's an offensive counter interpretation, and the offensive part is basically that by winning this theory show with this counter interpretation, you're essentially running your own theory, since by winning it, they violated a norm, and so they get dropped immediately. So you want to run an offensive counter interpretation to both circumvent needing to interact with RVIs when it's run on you. So it doesn't matter whether there are or aren't RVIs. And so that then you win by winning the theory shells, since they get dropped for violating your interpretation you've set up, or offensive
Exactly.
counter interpretation.
Exactly right. So in this case, once again, the team running the theory doesn't violate. It's defensive. It's like someone's attacking you. Someone's like, you must do this. And you're like, oh, I don't have to. I don't have to. In this case, you're saying, you cannot force me to do this. This is a bad thing for you to force me to do this. You are actually the one breaking the norms. You get that?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Should you always try to run an offensive counter interpretation, or are there times when you shouldn't? Like, or is it always better?
It's like intuitively, generally, it's better to run offensive counter interpretations for the reasons that you can literally win in the theory shell, right? If it's a kind of tough thing to say that they may not force you to do, like if they're like, debaters must give funding, or like, I mean, I would say almost like 99% of the time you want to give an offensive counter interpretation.
Okay.
Just because it's like, it makes more sense, right? That if, like, at least if it makes more, like, whichever interpretation makes more intuitive sense. Like, this makes sense, or does this make sense? Right? Like, it's whatever you can really come up with, but this way you're able to at least get your way for you to win the theory shell on the round, right? So let me give you an example of a round. So if there's case happening, or let's go af, and then neg. So, how do I make, table, right? Insert table, 2 by 2. Okay. Af, neg. The af is reading case plus they run theory. The neg is reading case plus they respond. If we make a simple chart, the af can win on the case and the af can win on theory, right? If you read a or just like a regular counter interp, right? The af can win case and the af can win in theory. The neg can only win in case. And it's this assuming no RBIs. Because RBIs are, if you argue for it and you win the RBI, then you can win the shell. But the af has 2 passes to the ballot, the neg has 1. And if you know you're not winning the no RBIs argument, because some judges are literally like, I don't like RBIs, then you know that it's probably better to run an OCI. Because now it's 2 paths, right? Path, 2 paths. You don't want to minimize your winning chances. You always want to maximize them. Okay. This is a lot. This is a lot. I know that. What else? Oh, I was talking about conditions for RBIs, right? Yeah. So conditions for which you meet the RBI. When you say RBI is good, you have to give a condition for which you get the RBI. We didn't violate the interpretation, which is known as the. Someone say it.
We meet.
Meet or our counter interpretation is better than their interpretation. Competing interps, right? And then you can say if we win one counter standard, you can come up with your own conditions, right? You can say, oh, if we win this one counter standard of real world education, then we get the RBI, because this is the most important thing in the round, because ultimately debate only serves its purpose as preparing us to be policymakers and being people in the real world. Debate is fake. However, the education, the skills we get from it are not fake. Thus, if we win this counter standard, if we prove this is the most important counter standard, you grant us the RBI, even if they're winning every other standard. It's almost like weighing. Yeah. So you can come up with your own conditions for which you get the RBI. Okay. Wait. This is like almost everything on theory. I don't know if we want to. It's already getting late. We can maybe have a K lecture like another day. But for now, what I'll do is I have to create like a. Oh, this is one thing. Yes, actually, I will cover this. I will cover this. Okay. So now you guys understand what theory is effectively. Hopefully. Now what you have to do is what happens when there's multiple theory shells in a round, right? Let's say the negative is running theory and the affirmative is running theory. The negative, the 1 and C, read a theory shell saying the affirmative, I don't know, didn't read a plan text, and the MG is running theory on the negative, saying the negative ran a counterplan, and their counterplan is very abusive. Okay? Which theory shell comes first? Anyone have any ideas? Or if you're confused on what I'm talking about, ask.
Is there a default for which would come first, or is it that that would be something you argue over? So the affirmation side could be saying that our theory shell comes a priori to your theory shell because of X reason Y.
Exactly right. There's no default. One thing is that are some rules more important than other rules? Like, are there some norms that are just better than other norms? Maybe. So how do you argue for? So let's say Akimi and I once again are playing Monopoly. I rob the bank. I literally take I steal $500,000 in Monopoly money. But Akimi, I don't know, rolls the dice 20 times and then moves and collects all the properties. I don't know, something like that. Which is the more egregious violation? I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even know why I'm using Monopoly so much. I don't even play Monopoly. But like, you get my point. When there's multiple violations, when there's multiple theory shells, how do you determine which one comes first? It's more so not which one is the correct one, or rather the one that suits you the best. Which is the one's going to win you the round? Usually it's the one that it's the theory shell that you're running. So these are called theory weighing arguments. LOC theory over MG theory means that you consider theory run in this speech always before you consider theory run in this speech. Vice versa, there's little reasons for MG theory over LOC theory. But regardless, this is not a comprehensive, this is not like a dictionary, like this is the only, like this is just some dude decided to write like a whole file on this, and these are his reasons. These are coincidentally the Nuevas back files. But yeah, it's very important to make these arguments of layering, which theory shell comes first. And the round ends when the top layer is resolved. For most judges and tech judges, if you win, so let's say the layering is MG theory, comes before LOC theory, comes before critique, comes before an IVI, comes before a case. If the negative is winning LOC theory, if they're winning the critique, if they're winning IVIs, if they're winning case, but they're losing MG theory, they lose the round. Most of the time, it's not going to be this insane. Most of the time, it's literally just going to be like this. But it's the same argumentation as before, right? It's why do we say theory over case? Well, because if you broke a bunch of rules to win the case layer, you didn't actually win the round. Well, it's the same thing here. If this theory, if this violation is secondary, then you have to just consider the top layer. Top layer is the layer that matters. This is what's known as layering. Very, very important. Layering. Layering will win 99% of rounds, even in case debates. Well, no, I mean, it's case layer. Like, it's layering in the case layer is weighing, if you know what I mean. Like, when you weigh impacts, you say, like, oh, prefer economy over healthcare. That's weighing. That's a form of layering, right? If we win economy, we win the round. It doesn't matter if they win healthcare, because economy is more important than healthcare. Same thing here. If we win MG theory, we win the round. It doesn't matter if they win LC theory or they win case. So here are the reasons for LOC theory comes for MG theory. Order. We ran the theory shell first. Or the abuse happened in the PMC. So what happens? If the abuse happened in this speech, then the round is skewed from then on. The round is over. Right? The round is already not fair, which means that you can't count anything we do as unfair, because the only way to respond to your unfairness is to be unfair ourselves. You kind of get that? So therefore, consider our theory shell first, because it addresses the first abuse in the round. That's order. And over court systems, whatever. 2, golden rod. This is the argument that the AF has the last speech. The AF has the final say, right? So that means the AF can come up and say, oh, if MG theory comes first, then they can just spend all their time on MG theory, and they can possibly just win the round through, like, whatever, having the final say. However, if LC theory comes first, they have to still win LC theory and they have to win MG theory, right? Do you get that? So it forces them to actually engage with our arguments. Because if MG theory comes first, the affirmative can say, F everything else. Like, I don't give a shit about LC theory. I don't give a shit about case. I'm going to spend 5 minutes on MG theory. Why is it bad? Well, then we don't listen to each other. We don't actually engage with other people. We just focus on our own arguments. That's not the point of debate. If LOC theory comes first, the PMR is forced to interact with LOC theory and then win MG theory. And then, on the contrary, yeah, Aaron.
Normally in the last speech, if you bring up a new argument, then the other side will POO. How would this relate to theory?
Great question. A lot of the times, by the way, I win like 99% of my theory rounds through POOs. It's actually insane. What will happen is that in the negative speech, you'll read theory. Well, not you will read theory, but like if you read theory, the MG is usually flustered, right? What they do almost 100% of the time is say, this is stupid. We don't really care. Moving on to case, which is what everyone does. Like, I've had 10 rounds where I run theory in the LLC. I say theory is a priori, theory is the first layer. You must establish theory first. The MG comes up, spends maybe less than a minute on theory. Is like, this is so stupid. Like, let's talk about the actual debate, guys. Like, what the hell? This is nonsense. Yada, yada. And then they go talk about case. And then the MO and the LOR extends theories a priori. Theory comes first. If you win the case round, that's only because it was skewed, because you broke the rules. And then you'll extend all your standards. You'll extend the interpretation. Okay, I should speak about that. Extending theory. So if the opponents don't respond to anything, make sure to extend all parts of the shell. So important. Because teams, what they do is they don't extend. They don't say like whatever, like what's it called? Like carry, like whatever, continue this argument. Because if you don't say that explicitly, the judges will just drop that argument. If you don't say extend, the judges will just drop it. So make sure you extend all the parts, not just the interpretation, the violation, the standards, the voters, the underview. Extend all of it. Then the PMR realizes how cooked they are. They realize, holy smokes, my partner did not respond to any of this in the MG. And then they start making theory responses. Then is the POO time. POO, this is a new response to a standard. POO, this is a new counterinterpret. POO, because why? We brought it up in this LOC. Your chance to respond is in the MG, not in the final speech. What the PMR can do is respond to standards. So for example, in this example, the PMR can respond. The PMR can respond to these standards. The PMR can turn the response to the standards, whatever. The PMR can still do stuff, can respond to stuff already said. But if it's a new response to a standard, or if it's like a new whatever something, POO. And that's how you win a lot of theory rounds. Yeah, extending theory. Oh, one thing I'll note, and this is where usually. Oh, yeah, Hunter. Oh, you're cutting out.
Yeah, so you're saying that you can provide like a counter interpretation. Okay. Sorry. Why shouldn't, if you've already brought up the arguments? Is that what you're saying? In
What did you
the
say?
PMR.
Well, I didn't hear that.
Wait, so you're
Hunter,
saying
just
you
put
can
your question in
provide.
chat.
Right. Yeah, Hunter, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I said I'd cover this at the end. This is where a lot of people start feeling like this is so stupid. Theory is such nonsense. But okay. Honestly, I love it because it just wins a lot of rounds. Thrifty, also known as frivolous theory. We've been talking about theory that's like plan text. They need to give a funding. They need to give a time frame. However, following the same rule of a rule, a violation, some good standards, you can come with any rule. So one of my favorite, well, I like hydration. So here, this is a theory shell that I wrote that I've ran in probably 7 rounds, being 7 for 7. The interp is that all debaters, or 6 or 7, yeah, it's some absurd number. But all debaters must verbally remind each other to hydrate before their speeches. That's the interp. So let's say we're in a debate round. And I say, before I begin my speech, I'd just like to remind everyone to hydrate. Water is very good for you. Water is nutritious. In the debate round, we're always thinking about speech. Drink water. Water is very good for you. And then I'll begin my speech. A is the interpretation. All debaters must verbally remind each other. And this is the negative speech. They fail to remind us before their first speech. Standards. 1, brain function. A 2% decrease in brain hydration can result in short-term memory loss. This links into quality debate rounds. Without hydration, my words become slurred. If I don't have water, you can't understand what I'm saying, right? So that means that hydration is the prerequisite to an educational debate round. Secondly, nerves. Debaters are consumed by nerves. They're always thinking about debate. Hydration reminders knock people out of the debate about constantly Argentina, U.S. federal government, economic policy, and they start thinking about themselves and thinking about drinking water, which is more important. It's the internal link into accessibility. 3, portability. Hydration reminders are more portable outside debate than actual policy, because most people never become policymakers, right? Like, think about it. Like, are any of us gonna actually pass policy? Probably not. However, what are all of us gonna do? Drink water. So this is probably more educational than actual debate. 4, signaling. According to Mayo Clinic, when someone reminds another to drink water, their chances boost by over 60%. Voters. Real world education. A bad education kills people. Look to when he thought that lead and arsenic was good for the human body because of a flawed education and worldview, leading to hundreds of millions of deaths. And then underview, once again, we already talked about this. Theory a priori, drop debater, competing interps, no RBIs, and then, okay, and then this is where you want to put the layering. LHC theory over MG theory or MG theory over LHC theory. This is an example of a very frivolous shell. Your opponents should lose the round because they didn't remind you to hydrate. That is what this interpretation is saying. You come with anything. The opponents must name a tropical fruit and explain the health benefits of that said fruit. Or all debaters must name a tropical fruit and name the health benefits of that said fruit. Standards. 1, health. If we aren't eating our fruits correctly, if you aren't actually engaging in eating fruits, then we are all lying in the hospital and we can't debate. Which means this is the prerequisite to actually debating. So you can see how theory can be stretched from tangible, legitimated abuse to nonsensical arguments. But where's the line? Where's the line between nonsensical and not nonsensical? We don't know that. So a lot of people argue there's no bright line. The bright line is the argument. There's no line. There's no line between legitimate and non-legitimate theory. There's no bright line. So yeah, just know that you can come with any interpretation, any violation, any standards, and then voters and your underview. Yeah, I think that's about it. I think what I can do is no wait, why did I search up theory? Yes, I can play a theory round for you guys to see how this plays out in the real and TOC. Oh, so you're saying that you can provide a counter interpret if you more only if the arguments brought up. No. So a counter interpret must be brought up in the MG, or it must be brought up in the next speech. If you provide a counter interp and you provide standards, you can respond to those standards, but you can't make new arguments in the PMR. I'll show you guys how this works in a round. This is the classic. This is my first theory round that I watched. And I think this gives. Can you guys
5 seconds to skip the video and also 5 seconds to save a life. Let me tell you.
Land tech.
Do you hear that? Okay, perfect. Coincidentally, what's the topic? The US should ban microplastics. It was a 3-0 decision for Nueva, who ended up running theory and winning on theory with all 3 judges. So this is at TOC. If you guys want to go to the national championships, this is not theory will probably happen at the varsity level, at the very open level. Theory will probably happen 10 to 15% of the time, but you don't want to lose that 10 15%. You want to understand and grasp it at the 10 to 15%. This is not a strategy to win every single round. It's a strategy to win some rounds and to not lose crucial rounds. Okay. I'm gonna spare you of a lot of this. I just want to hear the theory shell. Usually people speak a bit fast. If you can't understand what people are saying, make sure you say. So I'll give you an example.
Do you have a product containing detectable levels of microplastics that's been your ignorant?
Yeah. So
that being said,
okay, we can. Anyways, they just give a bunch of reasons why banning microplastics is good. Okay.
Okay. Judges, my partner and I.
Okay, this is the first negative speech. This is where they introduce the plan inclusive counterplan, the banning everything but shrink wrap. So listen carefully and we'll debrief.
Start my time then if everyone is ready. In 3, 2, and 1. Hello, judges. My partner and I still stand on the firmest negation of the resolution resolved. The United States federal government should ban microplastics. We want to add some definitions today, or just sort of give definitions. Ban means officially or legally prohibit. Microplastics, again, we agree, are tiny plastic particles that result from 2 ways. 1, through commercial product development, and 2, the breakdown of larger plastics. This is really important because microplastics are not just those additional microplastics that are added defined like through microbeads, but microplastics also include the breakdown of all larger plastic items. So the affirmative today is running a complete ban on all products that contain microplastics. So that's every single plastic item. That's a very important distinction that we want to make today. So that brings me into the counterplan on the negation today, which is that the United States federal government should ban microplastics on a 2-year time frame, normal ways and means, but with a key exception, not banning plastics that are used for food packaging designed to increase shelf life.
Okay, so what did we hear just there? We heard the negative is going to do the entire affirmative minus food packaging microplastics. What is this called? Someone give me the name. We went over this.
It's a plan inclusive
counterplan.
Yes, and is it a minus or a plus?
Minus.
Minus. We are not banning food shrink wrap, effectively. Is this abusive? What do you think?
Yeah, it's probably pretty abusive.
Yes, this is abusive.
Right. So the affirmative is now like now instead of talking about banning microplastics or not, we're talking about banning food wrapped microplastic. Like we didn't prep for this. We don't know what this is. The AF gets the out in theory though. So okay, now you've heard that. Let's just go on to the theory shell.
Next specifics.
Okay, and then you'll learn how he gives an off-10 roadmap and addresses the theory shell and how he goes directly into it. This is the format in which you should present a theory shell.
All right. Order is one new sheet, then the neg case and the app case in order.
Okay. What he just said was one new sheet and then the AF case and the neg case in order, also known as one off. When they say one off, they're referring to an off case argument. An off case argument is usually a theory shell or a critique. In this case, it's probably not a critique. It's probably a theory shell. So they won't say one. Okay, my order is one theory shell, and then it's going to be my affirmative case and then the negative case. No. If you're running a theory shell, you say the order is going to be one off, the AF case, and the neg case in order. Okay. Oh, and another common key is whenever you're running theory, you always want to pass a text of your interp, if asked, to the opponents. So if they ask, what's your interp text? You just write that, you just pause time, write it down. All debaters must accept 2 POIs on a small sheet and then just hand it to them. Or if it's virtual, you type it in the chat. And if theory is being run on you, always stop time and ask for the interp. And if they're going too fast, which this guy will go very fast, actually. This guy speaks a little bit faster. You want to say slow or clear.
Specifically, we're going to be starting with the counter plan and then onto like the advantage DA and then move over. But yeah, obviously a new sheet is going on top. So is everybody ready?
Oh, and sorry for interrupting again. But a new sheet going over top is like, think about it as layering. It's going on top of everything else. He's implicitly saying that already layers above the case.
Cool. Give me like 10 seconds to get my flows in order and then I'll start. Also, yeah, POIs verbally, everything like that. I guess you can ask a POC if you're confused, which is good for us to stop time and we can have a conversation. So yeah, time starts in 3, 2, 1. A is the interpretation. The neg does not get access to a plan inclusive counterplan. Again, the neg does not get access to a plan inclusive counterplan. A pick is.
All right. Who caught the interp? What is the interp?
The neg cannot run a plan inclusive counterplan.
I caught that too.
You want to be kind of exact. If you want to try flowing this, try flowing this. It's a bit tough. He speaks a bit fast. Once again, if you're in a round and you can't flow that fast, what do you do?
Slow. Just say slow.
If you're online, unmute, slow, and ask for the interp text. If you're in person, just yell slow, and the norm is for them to slow down.
1. A is the interpretation. The neg does not get access to a plan inclusive counterplan. Again, the neg does not get access to a plan inclusive counterplan.
The neg does not get access to a plan inclusive counterplan. That's kind of ambiguous, but it goes into define what a plan inclusive counterplan is.
PIC is defined as a CP that includes the entire plan text plus something that adds or subtracts an element of the plan. The violation.
Right. So a pick is something that adds or subtracts an element of the government plan. That's the inter. Now the violation.
If they ran a plan inclusive counterplan, they literally do the entire affirmative case except a small little section of like shrink wrap standard.
Okay, what's the violation? Someone explain the violation.
The neg run.
Oh, the violation was that they included a plan, or that they are running a plan that's very similar to the government, except for one exception of shrink wrap.
What are the exact words that he used, or similar? Aaron?
I didn't catch the exact words.
Problem done.
Pick is the
I would have
interpretation.
yelled
The neg does
clear
not
if
get
I
access to a plan inclusive counterplan. Again, the neg does not get access to a plan inclusive counterplan. A pick is defined as a CP that includes the entire plan text plus something that adds or subtracts an element of the plan. The violation, if they ran a plan inclusive counterplan, because they literally do the entire affirmative case except a small little section of like shrink wrap standard.
They do the entire affirmative case minus a little bit of shrink wrap. That's the violation. Because why? A pick is defined as a CP that does the entire affirmative case minus something. The violation is they do the entire affirmative case minus something. Get it? Everyone on page so far with the theory shell. This is the chance. Interrupt. Interrupt me. I want to be interrupted. Okay. Aditya? Yeah?
Yeah, I'm just saying, yeah.
All right. Now the standards.
Standards. One, predictability. There's an infinite number of possible picks, so the neg has 20 minutes to prep of what the debate is actually going to be about. Our prep time becomes useless, so we can't predict every possible pick. Literally, how are we supposed to predict food insecurity and shrink wrap being bad? We say that predictability is good for education because a study by Stanford found that students who were given a syllabus at the beginning of the year did significantly better than students who were not. So you need to predict something in order to get education. Two is
What is the first standard? And someone give me a summary of the first standard.
Oh, was it predictability? Like we lose 20 minutes of prep time because how are we supposed to know like anything about like micro like their like plan of like minusing everything except for shrink wrap?
And what's the warrant they give for this? They give you a
Pass.
specific... What?
Pass.
Okay. Stanford. They say that a Stanford study found that students who were given a syllabus did much better than students who were not. Why does this prove their point? Well, if they know, yeah, Aaron.
The Stanford syllabus provided predictability for the course, and so when students got predictability for a course, they were able to do better. So therefore, you should get predictability in debate round, so you could do better.
Exactly right. Okay, next standard.
Was ground. Assures all year did significantly better than students who were not. So you need to predict something in order to get education. Two is ground. Assures all 7 minutes of offense for a case because the neg literally still garners all of it and causes all of the first speech to be essentially useless. They steal our case because the neg prevents clash and denies us the ability to have unique offense within a round. To the point where they literally say we subsume all their impacts over and over and over again on the app sheet. It's probably pretty obvious that they destroy ground. Also, clash. They destroy clash.
He spoke very fast, very unintelligibly there. Did anyone catch that standard and summary? Yes, Aaron.
I'm pretty sure that it was ground, and he was saying that the neg got all of the AF ground except the microplastics. And so they were able to get all the benefits of the affirmation side and only needed to argue for microplastics.
Yeah, I was gonna say something similar.
Yeah, they stole all the affirmative case. They effectively stole the entire affirmative case. Okay. They're like, how are we supposed to, whatever, like, predict, that was the other standard, but like, they stole all the ground, and this leads to less clash.
Clash because they don't clash with a single part of our case. We say that clash is the only way to get an education debate because otherwise we can just like talk into a wall or do speech there, which case we say that because they destroy ground. Also clash, they destroy clash.
That's the third standard clash. He didn't say third, but still.
Because they don't clash with a single part of our case. We say that clash is the only way to get an education debate because otherwise we can just like talk into a wall or do speech there, which that the only way that we get a unique education. The reason schools fund debate in the first place is because we get clash. We can actually debate, and which is why you have to be evaluating the fact that the only way to get education is to clash. 3, reciprocity.
Actually, that wasn't the third standard. That was a sub-point underground. Can someone explain the concept of clash? Or Aaron, or Akimi, or Aditya?
It's because like they're saying that they're like stealing the entirety of like affirmation's case, and therefore they're basically talking to a wall.
Well, yeah. The second part was more correct. Second part was more correct.
There's like no like competing arguments, so like there's no point of the debate, and therefore like there's no like educational purpose in it.
Right. Aaron?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that when their arguments aren't competing, you don't get the education from clash, because clash is the entire point of debate, having the disagreeing arguments.
Right. And the point of debate is to disagree. If you don't disagree, then we should just do speech. Speech is an argument. Speech is a format where you just speak to a judge with no opponents. Then why do we even do debate if we don't disagree with each other? So clash is important.
Of the net, which is why you have to be evaluating the fact that the only way to get education is through clash. 3, reciprocity. If the net can make minor adjustments to the app, then we can't too, which justifies intrinsic and severance perms, which means that debate just evolves back into like really dumb theory arguments or really dumb like intrinsic perms or severance perms, which we say is not good for education or fairness. D is the voters.
That was jargon was used. Can someone explain that argument in a more lay way? Sort of. First of all, if you get the tagline and sort of explain it in your own words.
I'm pretty sure the tagline of this one was reciprocity, and it was arguing that both sides need to do the same things as the opposite side, or have the same things to win.
So what did the negative do to violate reciprocity?
I'm pretty sure that what the negative did to violate reciprocity is that they didn't need to prove their entire plan, since they're already stealing that from the affirmation side. I'm not too sure.
The argument he's making is that the negative can modify the affirmative plan. The negative can see the affirmative plan and then make adjustments on how they see fit. The affirmative can't do that. The affirmative can make adjustments to their plan how they see fit. They're bound by the topic. However, the negative can say, oh, we don't actually like this. We want to change this up a little bit, and we can like change this and we can make it perfect. Right? That's not fair, right? So it's not reciprocal. Did you want to say something?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, I do. Wait, but like, isn't that like one of the ways that op can win? Like, they don't have to like only like argue for the status quo, but they can like change it like a little bit. So
Right.
like,
but he's arguing
every time they do that?
No, you don't have to. But he's just arguing that in this context, it's very unfair. Because well, what they can do is they can just make minor adjustments to the affirmative case and say, oh, we want to pick and choose ground and we want to pick and choose this. That's not reciprocal. You can do that. I can't. That should not be allowed. Okay, now the voters.
Dumb like intrinsic perms or severance perms, which we say is not good for education or fairness. D is the voters. 1, fairness. Arguments used at the debate round and creates a world where the net can always win by picking out small parts of the resolution. Again, they literally subsume all of our impacts, meaning that we have no unique.
Oh, but subsume means to like consume or to like steal. So when they say we subsume all their impacts, that means like we steal all their impacts. I'll just play it again from the start.
It's not good for education or fairness. D is the voters. 1, fairness. Arguments used at the debate round and creates a world where the net can always win by picking out small parts of the resolution. Again, they literally subsume all of our impacts, meaning that we have no unique offense under their world. But we say we probably do, but we'll get into that later. This causes the debate to be a coin toss, which means that there's no reason for us to actually do the activity and it would collapse. 2, education.
Okay, what's the rationale for fairness? Okay, here I'll just start explaining. But the rationale they give for fairness is that the neg, once again, just steals all the ground. It's a kind of like an extension of the standards. They kill fairness. Fairness is important because debate becomes a coin toss. We don't want we want debate to actually be, or then one side wins all the time. It's not fair, right? And then if we go explain why education is good.
The whole reason we do debate is education. The only unique educational value in debate is clash. Otherwise, we would just Google a topic and learn just as much. We see that
important. Clash is important in debate because if debate's truly uniquely important, because if we just wanted to learn about a topic, I would just be like, oh, microplastics. Let me learn all about it. But education and debate is important because of clash. which you don't get through Googling. Okay.
That again pigs specifically kill clash that should be voted down on education. Also, the only reason schools fund debate in the first place is because of education. So by destroying the educational value of debate, you destroy like debate in the first place.
Okay, do you guys? I said that before, but do you guys get that? So 2 voters, fairness, education. Now he's gonna go to the underview. Underview is who remembers the 4 parts. We can say it without looking at the notes.
Maybe.
Okay, try. Let's hear it.
Theory comes a priori to
Okay.
case. There's no RVIs.
Okay.
And huh?
Interesting order.
Yeah, RVIs was the 4th one. So theory comes a priori to case. There's no RVIs. Drop the debater. If I win this, and what's the 4th one?
Competing.
I'm not gonna get the 4th one. It's
Competing.
Competing
oh yeah, competing interpretation.
Reasonability.
Right.
So by destroying the educational value of the debate, you destroy like debate in the first place. See the underview. 1, a priori evaluates the prior question of the debate. We have to establish the rules of the game before we can play it. 2, no RVIs because it created a chilling effect.
Oh, he went in the order. He went no RVI second. Look at that.
Legitimate theory. 5, competing interpretations is the only coherent way of evaluating theory. And 6 is drop the debater to prevent future abuse via norm setting. 6.
There you go. All the 4 parts we talked about.
We said that even if you don't have proven abuse, you're still going to be voting because theories like through competing interpretations, it's a like a rule for debate. We see this is a good rule for debate. But again, we also have proven abuse, so you should vote on that too.
Read my perm.
Okay, on to our opponent's case. Number 1, the CP. Perm the CP. They don't give you
right. So
Wait,
that was
what does perm mean again? Sorry.
so. This is another. Okay, well, we're gonna go into around another rabbit hole, but okay, I'll do it. A perm. A perm is the argument the government can also do what the negative is doing.
It's just saying that like the 2 plans are not mutually exclusive, and if like the negative has a plan that can also work as long as it doesn't contradict what the government is supposed to do, then like government can just absorb that part of the plan just because like it doesn't remove like it doesn't actually like remove or sorry, it doesn't actually violate what the government's role is, which is to uphold the topic.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So I'll give an example. The plan, government will ban all microplastics. Counter plan, or sorry, US will give free food. Which plan is better?
Free food.
Is it the topic though? Is it really like why can you say your counter plan is to give free food to everybody? So government here is going to come and say, perm the CP. It is not mutually exclusive. We can ban microplastics and give free food. This is not a legitimate counterplan. No need for theory, just say perm. Right? If it's not mutually exclusive. Now, you probably don't need to know this, but I'll just do it just in case. Intrinsic. There's 2 types of perms. Intrinsic perms and severance perms. Intrinsic perms are when you add something to the plan. Severance perms are when you subtract something to the plan. An example, this round that we just looking at, the topic actually doesn't say all. Topic just says ban. Right? The topic says the US should ban microplastics. But the affirmative in the first speech, the affirmative said, we will ban all microplastics. So they interpreted it that way. But in the resolution, there's nothing that says all. So when they said we will ban, negative says we will ban some except for shrink wrap. then you can say perm the CP and do what they're doing. We switch our advocacy. We switch it. Now we're doing what the negative is doing. Because we still abide by the resolution. Do you get that? So
could neg run theory saying that like they like prep skew or like like
right,
it just lost a bunch of their prep time?
Very well, they very well could. But then the response that the government side can give is, well, you ran a advocacy that's not mutually exclusive. You ran an advocacy that's we can run as a possible government. So that shouldn't be even a legitimate advocacy. So this is called a severance. Or I should have asked that question. This is called a severance perm. Why is this a severance perm? If you go from this to this,
they're just removing the microplastics part of their all microplastics.
They're removing the microplastics as part of the microplastics?
Or they're removing microplastics from their plan to ban microplastic. I'm sorry. They're trying to remove shrink wrap. They're trying to remove shrink wrap from their like interpretation of the topic as all microplastics.
Correct. So the PMC says we will ban all. LOC says we will ban all but shrink wrap, and the MG says we agree with LOC severance perm. You get that? What if the counter plan was the US will ban all plastics? So what does it mean? We're not just banning microplastics, we're also going to ban every single plastic in the world. So we're not just banning like the tiny microplastics, we're going to ban literally like I don't know, like the big plastics, something like that. So in this case, we'll ban all plastics, all microplastics. This is when we agree with LOC, intrinsic perm. Right? You're adding something to the plan. So do you have the two types of perms?
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
Would you say that verbally, like in the speech? Oh, this is an intrinsic perm. Like
you just say perm the CP. We're adding this to our plan. This is an intrinsic perm. You can say something like that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, once again, you're only using this terminology if the judges are specifically familiar with this terminology, which is like you'll know when you get a judge familiar with this. Like literally, the paradigm will be like brain rot. The paradigm will be like straight brain rot. Then you know that you can use terms like this because the judges will yeah, they love these terms. Yeah, and they got like the negative had no idea how to respond. Look, this is how the negative responded. I'll play it.
Can everyone hear me? So the first thing I'm going to be doing is addressing the theory shell, and then I'm going to be addressing the perm, rebuilding our case, and then refuting theirs. Okay, so if everyone's ready, I'll start my time in 3, 2, 1. Okay, first addressing the theory shell, they'd say that it's a plan inclusive counterplan, which is inherently avoiding clash in today's debate. There's a couple responses to this. Number one, it is directly not a plan inclusive counterplan. We're directly doing something that the affirmation is specifically not doing within their plan. We are specifically including a a vastly significant portion of plastics that.
So they weren't even listening. Yeah, of course. They're doing something the affirmative is not. That's the point of a pick. The point of a pick is to do the whole affirmative minus something they're not doing. Right? Or minus something they're doing. Right? So, kind of a nonsensical response. But why did she lose within the first 10 seconds of her speech? Sort of. Well, there's no counter interp. What does your world look like? I don't know. You concede competing interps and you don't provide a counter interp. What in this round, what can a counter interp be? Someone give me a counter interp as a response to their theory shell.
The negative side should be able to run and plan inclusive counter plans.
Yeah, the neg is entitled. Usually you use it. You can say entitled or may choose to run. Yeah, the neg may choose to run a plan inclusive counter plan. That should be the first thing. Whenever you respond to theory, you don't say, oh, generally, blah, 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 blah. No, you lose the judges. First thing you do, counter interp, then counter standards. Or technically, we meet counter interp, counter standards, yada yada yada. And you can see in the I'll show you feedback where they're literally like, what the hell, bro? There's no counter interp. I immediately vote affirmative.
That are produced today, which are used in shrink wrap. It's not one tiny minute, like microscopic change. This is a very significant portion of plastic that is produced that we really effectively should not ban in the next 2 years. They say that like prep time becomes useless because they can't prepare for anything that the negation says. There's a couple responses to this. There are number one, the affirmation could have basically put in any plan that has like specific variations to affirm.
So she's already lost the round. When you give generic responses like this, you don't. Okay. You don't, first of all, have a competing interp. You don't have a counter interp. So you have no model for debate. So you automatically lose there. But secondly, you don't have counter standards. What are reasons to prefer your world? It's like I have all the offense, and you're saying no, but it's not that great. Whatever. So all the athletes approved, they have marginal impacts.
The rest could have been deposits. It's like the same ability to not be able you at basically like stealing their prep time and able to predict. They could have done only. There's nothing in the plastics, fraud, inherent problem into more specific counter plan. Yeah, I'll take your POI.
Yeah,
whatever. So they essentially lose the round in that, and then the PMR collapse is kind of how you're supposed to collapse. He doesn't do the best job, but it's sort of how you're supposed to get it done. So I'll play the PMR collapse right now.
Perfect. Okay, my time starts now. Judge, there are 4 main things to consider in this round. First, theory. To the point in which they don't respond to the counterinterpretation, they don't give you a counterinterpretation. Don't say that you need to be evaluating the theory show and reasonability and concede a standard. This should be a very easy affirmation vote.
What he said is, they don't give you a counterinterp. They don't say reasonability over competing interps. They concede competing interps comes first. They drop one of our standards. You have to vote in the theory show, and he's gonna explain this.
The overview is vote on theory because of the conceded reciprocity standard. If you don't buy this, just vote off in case because the perm in turn on creating new technologies. But let's specifically talk about the layers of the theory. First, on the predictability standard, even if we can be unpredictable, doesn't mean the neg gets to be. We say that neg can be more unpredictable because we have finite number of plans. This gets conceded. This is a unique reason you're preferring this standard. Second, on clash, they don't respond to the meat of the clash argument to the point in which until the entirety of the block, they're just saying we subsume the entirety of the app impacts. This should be a pretty easy trigger pull on the standard. The argument here is that they have
a trigger pull is easy place to just sign your ballot right away. So some people will say trigger pull or pull the trigger. It's just like when you think about pulling the trigger, like game over. Like pull the trigger, sign the ballot, done. Pull the trigger on the standard means just vote on it.
They have to respond to the affirmative advantages specifically because that's the only way we can get education. Even if they specify a specific point of where we shouldn't ban microplastics, they don't clash with that thesis of the affirmative as we specify it to the point where the resolution is that USFC, they don't uphold their burden. And 3, on the conceded standard, they concede reciprocity. So they concede that in our interp of the world, we develop into infinite and severance perms and kill debate. This is potential abuse, but they concede you vote on this as well. And finally, they give you a half-ass, or they give you like a sort of fleshed out we meet articulation, but they also consider definition of a pick and or violation, which probably means you shouldn't be evaluating their like we meet interpretation specifically. Specifically like part of a pick is you can subtract it. That's literally what we said in our interpretation. It's pasted in chat if you want to double check that. And finally on that,
another benefit to pasting your interp in chat.
Underview thing. 1, they don't read an RVI. This means that this is you can only vote AF on the theory shell. Specifically, we only need to win one standard or even a 0.001% chance that the standard is true to win that our interp is better. We say that we can easily vote on the reciprocity standard, which implicates to the deconstruction of debate by just like having everyone 7 perms and then responding with the picks. Also, they have no counter interp, which means that you're probably preferring the affirmative theory shell like on net. Yes. Okay. Extend the underview that's specifically like it's an a priori shell. This means you're uplaying it over everything else, and the implication is you drop the debaters.
Okay, important. A lot of people forget that last step. Extend everything, and then he goes into case. Okay, here are the judges' RFD.
If the
Sure, I can go.
like if they're so I think I was the last a 3-0 for the gov.
And okay, first judge is very based.
Sure, I can go. Yeah, so I voted entirely on the theory shell, like the Pix pad shell. I think that there's just a lot of crucial arguments that are conceded by the negation that make it pretty easy to pull the trigger there. Like, I think that since the voter level is pretty much entirely conceded, it makes it kind of easy for the app to come in, and if they win just like even a little bit of offense on this shell, I can vote there. Like, namely, I think it really needed to be responded to that this was a priori, because since like it's agreed pretty much, the app makes that extension that it is the first thing I should be evaluating. It's the first place that I have to look in the round. And then when I'm evaluating that, like I look to the rest of the voter level, which is also extended. So I default to competing interpretations, which the affirmation actually does extend. And since there is no interpretation, it makes it kind of hard already off the bat for the negation to have offense in the round. But then on the shell, but then I look to this we meet, and I think if the affirmation is correct in saying that the we meet argument is largely insufficient because it pretty much describes the definition of a pick that is provided by the affirmation that was put in chat. And then I think that makes it then hard for that to mitigate most of the shell. And then I think that the affirmation is slightly ahead on, accessing clash, because I think like a lot of the arguments made by the negation kind of miss the specific analysis made by the affirmation as to like how they have lost clash and therefore education. I think that it isn't super effective to say that like there is clash on this one specific issue when the Pix bad shell pretty much addresses why it's bad to just pick out of one specific thing and why that then harms the clash. And I think like
so you get it. So the judges all very easily just pulled the trigger on theory there, because one, neg gave no counterinterp, two, had no counter standards, conceded the underview, the theories a priori comes first, conceded competing interps, and they didn't respond to the standards. Game was over. So, yeah.
Wait, so I'm just confused, like in the PMR when he like linked on how neg was conceding to abusiveness because it conceded to reciprocity. Like, can you explain that link?
So, what do you, I'll ask you a question. Let's say you have 3 contentions and they responded 2 of your contentions. What are you going to focus on in the final speech?
The one that they dropped.
Exactly. They had 3 standards. They responded to 2 standards. They dropped the 3rd standard on reciprocity. So what are they going to be primarily focusing on? That reciprocity standards. If you buy.
But then why did they mention like abuse? Like, how is that abusive that they dropped it?
No, it's not abusive. They dropped it. They conceded they're abusive through dropping the standard.
They concede that they are abusive?
They concede that they're abusive by running a pick. Do you get that? The reciprocity standard proves that one side is abusive because they get to pick and choose ground.
Oh, okay, I got it. Thanks.
Right? Do you get it now?
I do.
So,
I got it.
So if you win the reciprocity standard, if we prove that the neg isn't reciprocal, then they're abusive. Which means the theory is pointing out abuse, right? They should lose a round for it. Okay, wait. I'm actually very impressed that Laura and Sophie. I don't know, Sophie. I don't know if you guys are like still like listening. I don't expect you guys are, but how much of that did you retain? If you retained at least 10%, I'll be happy.
I was listening. I got lost on certain parts, but I just have one other question. In most non-novice debate rounds, do they talk that fast?
Good question. No.
Okay.
It depends on the judge. Like, once again, parent judges, if you speak that fast, you will lose the round, because it's like
Yeah.
just older. It's like, imagine your dad is judging a debate round. Like, if your dad heard people speaking that fast, he'd be like, what, I can't understand that fast. So always want to cater to the judge. However, there are rounds where people speak very, very fast because the judges can't understand that fast. Very important to know, if you are in a round where you cannot understand your opponents, either they might be speaking really slow, like whatever, like that, you yell clear. So literally, I'm speaking like practice. Like, Sophia, I want you to call clear. So, blah, 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 blah.
Clear.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what you're supposed to do.
You
Or,
just interrupt them while they're in the middle of talking and really.
yep. So it's used as just a call. So there's two calls you can make: slow and clear. If they're like the interpretations of one thing must specify planning in the PMC, whatever, something like that, something insane, you would literally call slow on that.
Okay.
And the norm is for people to slow. If they don't slow, you can bring this up as a voting issue to the judges. Debaters must slow when asked to slow. Right? And
Yeah.
this is a stability concern. So yeah.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have maybe like next week or some other week, we'll have like the K lecture. But yeah, the theory lecture, I think this is everything on theory and tech case and stuff. Yeah. If you guys end up getting like a theory round this weekend, that'll be interesting. Oh, I can share with you the judges where you can run theory on. Let's see. If you get one of these judges, you'll kind of know. Okay. Fade back forward. In general, I like K's. Blah, blah, blah. Save the fifth theory, bring on framework and T debates. So, Aaron, yeah.
There was a second Google Doc you had, which was like MA theory lesson doc. Could you share that with us? And then second question is, what do you think is the best way for us to learn about different debate stuff and improve at debate outside of practices and lectures?
Good question. Watching rounds is very helpful. Watching Proteus debate is very, very helpful, I think. Proteus debate, Parley, like critiques or something. Yeah. Or like Proteus debate responding to critiques. Yeah. And then you can watch these videos. These videos are pretty good.
So
And then he'll go over
whatever thing they said, whatever truth claims they made about epistemology, or
and then he'll go and explain everything. He's pretty good. I think he's like Ella's also like uncle or something. Not Ella's like third. I don't know. He's distantly related to Ella. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, sort of. You can't run that much friv if it's truly warranted, like the pick theory. Yes. No, do not. If you run a critique, you will not win. Don't spread. Probably not. Yeah. Logic and thoughtfulness. No theory. No theory, no case. No. Sport trigger warnings. Newer parent judge. Yeah. Probably not. I'm not really a fan of case and heavy theory. No. I flow the round. High probability. No. This person. Oh wait. Andrew Garlikov. No, this is a parent. No. Mina glands. Yeah. T is fine only with good reason. Yeah, I mean, like if once again if it's warranted with a lot of these judges, it'll work. John Harkavy. Yeah. Kyle is a flow judge. You can run legitimate theory, but don't run frivolous theory. Parent judge, no theory, no theory, no theory. This is my dad. Big with speed. Could be. It could be theory. Could be. Sumant. Yeah, if you get Sumant, he loves theory. He loves theory. Lay judge, no. Mangas, no. You can tell, like, no. Novice volunteer, no. Parent judge, no. Parent judge, no. Maybe. Potentially. Joyce Rowe, not much theory. So maybe if it's legitimate, she'll vote in it. Every Rutan is not tech. Yeah.
Okay, wait, this is just a question about picks. So it's just basically like something that you call people out on. Like like you can like call people out on picks on both gov and op, and then it's just when like they're flower picking, like what argument to respond to. Like I don't 100% understand that.
Aaron, do you get what a pick is? Do you want to explain it?
Or I mean, I can explain it too.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So pick is just like it stands for like plan inclusive counterplan. So it's not just like picking one section of like or it's not what you thought it was. It just means that like they're basically like the opposition essentially is taking what the government plan is in a policy round and then making like a very slight change. So like a pick inclusive means that I don't think inclusive is the right word, but a pick inclusive is just a plan that is very similar to the government, but with one like added thing. And then I think the other is like a pick negative, which is essentially the entire government plan minus one thing. So the round that we watched, which is like the microplastics one, government's plan was ban all microplastics. And then opposition said we were gonna do all microplastics except for shrink wrap. So then that's a pick negative because it's basically the whole government plan except for one little section, which was which was
Okay, yeah, I get that. I get that. So like when you're saying that in a speech, like how would you structure it? Would you be like, oh, like they picked an argument or like
No,
like
no, no,
how
no, no. So a pick is not PICK.
well, yeah, I know that, but I'm just like, how do you like verbally say it? Like
So yeah,
they
so wait, so
they made it their plan is a pick. Their counter plan is a pick.
a pick is a type of counterplan. Then only the negative can run picks because it's a counterplan. Unless the government can run counterplans, right? Only the negative can run counterplans. So a pick is an argument the negative can run. Do you get that? Okay. And it's a pick plus and pick minus. Aditya.
Yeah. Oh, pick plus pick minus. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
No, no worries, no worries. Yeah, yeah, theory. I'm open to theory arguments. Like a lot of these people are actually decently open to it. I will say the one judge, which if you do get Davis, I think he's pretty good with theory. Theory is a great way to win debates, proven abuse. If there's actually bad abuse, you can run theory. Yeah, this guy, yeah. Theory is fun, is good with this guy.
Did you just search theory in paradigms to get this list?
No, this is just the full paradigms.
Oh, you just open up all paradigms for parliamentary?
Yeah, so what you
wait,
can do
I
is
have another question.
Oh, you just went to the paradigms for the tournament. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Would
Yeah.
picks be included in like the violation category, or would it just be like a separate shell on like
That is the violation, right? Or
I don't understand the question.
it's like okay, like when you're okay, like if they have like a pig in their argument, would you call it out in like a separate shell, or would you like incorporate that in the like subpoint B violation? Do you know what I mean?
So like this.
Like when you call someone out on it, do you like use a separate shell?
Well,
Or
it depends. What do you want to do with them calling them out? Do you want them to lose
Or
the
like how did that other guy from Nueva do it? Like when he was calling
Yeah. He
person
said,
out.
like, what do you mean calling a person out?
Like or like I don't know, like how did he respond to that pig like in his speech?
Oh, like how did he respond to it without theory?
Or no, like I don't know, like just how did like he oh actually like I don't even know. Like how did he just like bring it up?
I don't quite.
Wait, okay.
Does anyone get what Aaron? Do you get what she's saying?
Okay,
oh,
if they
how do you
have
attribute that aspect of that argument.
Wait, Aaron, what were you saying?
So, Akimi, are you asking like how do you respond if they do a pick or like if they have a pick?
No, I'm asking like when you're speaking and then you want to call, I don't know what else you could say besides call someone
Oh,
out. Like when
just
Neg is making like when Neg says like a pig and then you're trying to like convince the judge or something to not vote for them, like how would you like
Yeah,
structure
you
like
would run theory on that, right?
And that would just be like a whole theory, right? Like
Yeah,
you
you
would
just run. You just start saying A is
like
interpretation.
A is for interpretation, like Nay cannot run picks.
Yeah.
And then B for
Here,
violation.
look,
He ran a pick.
Yep.
Okay, okay. Okay.
Yo,
Yeah.
Shawnak, I think I'm gonna hop off. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
we're gonna end probably like right now. If there's any more questions, then yeah, this is gonna be posted hopefully. This is a long.
Wait, where? Are you just put it in the group chat?
Probably put it on YouTube, and then well, yeah, this
Okay.
is interesting. This will be, we'll see how well you guys do with the tournament. Are you going to the tournament this weekend?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah. The one judge I would say look out for theory on is
Oh, I remember this guy. He actually judged one of my first tournaments.
if you have this dude, if you run theory and you know how to respond to theory, then you can win. You can.
Yeah, his paradigm is kind of funny. Okay. Bye, Shawnak. Thank you so much, man.
Okay, yeah. Anyone else have any more questions before we end?
No, I'm gonna go. Thank you.
Okay, see you all.
Thank you.